Hi, boys and girls. This is Grandma Sheila, and I know my voice isn't very good today, but we're going to try anyway. This story happened when I was about between 4 and 5 years old. Now, we lived in Oregon in the Willamette Valley, and we lived in a small house that we rented from an older gentleman and his wife, and it was a good place to be raised. Well, there were some unique things about that house. Number one, the outside of it, the siding was an old kind of siding they used to make. It had like a gravelly sand on the outside of it, and it was very brown. Well, there's nothing wrong with brown on a house, but my mother didn't like it very well. So she decided to fix it. Well, in the Willamette Valley, it rains lots and lots and lots. So she got a brilliant idea. She decided that she would plant dahlia bulbs all the way around that little house. So that's what she did. Now, dahlias, if they're watered and fertilized, they will grow and grow and grow and grow. Well, these dahlias grew so tall that they covered the whole sides of the house, and they went clear up to the edge of the roof. Well, they weren't all the same, though. Dahlias, there's pom-pom dahlias, which are little round blossoms that are totally round, and they come in all different colors. Then there was spider dahlias. Spider dahlias had the petals of the blossoms came out, and they folded under and made long points all the way around, and they made these great big beautiful bursts of color. Well, there was middle-sized dahlias, little dahlias, big dahlias. The biggest dahlias were what they called dinner plate dahlias. They were big enough that if you cut the blossom off and laid it flat, it would cover the whole top of a plate. They were beautiful. So Mother got her wish that the house looked prettier. Well, outside of the house, we had a woodshed. We had a stove inside that burnt firewood, so my father would cut wood and fill up the woodshed. Well, also in the woodshed was something very special. I had a sister who was 2 years and 1 day older than me. And although I loved dollies, my sister loved kitties. And the woodshed had several cats that lived in it. And then the cats had babies, so we had baby kitties. So the woodshed was a special place because we liked to go out there and play with the cats. But one night, my father was laying in bed and he heard this awful noise. And he thought, what is that? Well, he went to the door and he listened. And coming from the woodshed was that terrible screaming type noise. So he took his flashlight and he went out. He was shining his flashlight around, and he carefully opened the woodshed door. Somebody must have left it open, or the wind had blown it open, because when he shone his light inside, on top of one of those huge stacks of wood, was this huge cat. We never really knew if it was a bobcat or a cougar, but it screamed almost like a lady. My dad knew that it had gotten in there and it was going to eat the cats. So he took a long pole and he started whack, 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 hitting at that big, huge cougar or bobcat. And it frightened it, and it ran away into the woods. Phew! We didn't know that our woodshed could be a scary place. Well, the inside of the house was like any other house. We had a living room and a kitchen and a dining area and 2 bedrooms and a bathroom. But the bathroom was the interesting place. Now, what's generally in a bathroom? Well, a bathroom generally has a tub and a sink or a shower. But what else is generally in there? Generally in there, there's generally a toilet. But we didn't have a toilet. So outside, we had an outhouse. Wasn't very exciting when it was dark and you needed to go to the bathroom. But that's what we had, so I'm going to tell you more about that outhouse in a little bit. Well, my sister, being 2 years older than I was, she was old enough to go to school. And right down the road from us was a school that had 8 grades. It was a great school. It was close enough that in the mornings my mother would walk out to the road and she would stand there and she would watch my sister walk to school. And when it was time for school to be out, we could hear the bell that said it was time for her to come home. So Mother would stand outside and watch for her to come home. Well, she made a lot of friends at school. And one of her friends, behind our house, there was a bean field, pole beans, big, tall beans. I mean, so many beans that they sold them to the can rate can. If you walk through that bean field, on the other side of it, my sister's friend lived. And oh, it was fun to go there. Generally, I didn't get to go. Mother said I was too little. But she would go, my sister would go through the bean field, and Mother would look at her watch, and she'd say, "Okay, it's 1 o'clock now. You need to be home by 3 o'clock." So she would take off across the bean field. Well, that made me kind of sad because I liked to play with my sister. And she was gone, and I was too little to go. So Mother would do special things with me when my sister would go over to play with her little friend. Well, one day she got to go play. Well, I had done stuff with Mother, and I was watching the clock. Well, pretty soon the clock said 3 o'clock. So I rushed outside to wait impatiently for my sister to come home. Well, pretty soon I saw her walking out of the bean bushes, and she was pulling something behind her. I looked around, and it was a big bird with a long tail. It was a pheasant, and it was dead. And I looked at that and I thought, why did she bring that here? That kind of looks scary laying out there. Well, my sister wasn't as scared of it. I had to use the outhouse. So I went in and I shut the door. Well, old outhouses. I don't know whether it was because they used leftover wood or what the deal was, but they often had what we called knot holes. And a lot of times the knot in the knot hole would fall out, and then there would be just a peek hole. Well, our outhouse had some knot holes, and I was sitting inside that outhouse, and I was thinking about that big dead bird that my sister had brought home. And I thought, oh dear. Well, then, sometimes brothers and sisters like to scare little girls and little brothers. Well, my sister thought she would do something very funny. So she came up to that knot hole and she put her eye flat against the knot hole, and she started rolling her eyeball round and round. She made her eyeball great big. And do you know what my little girl's brain said? It's that pheasant. It's coming to get me. And I started to scream, ah! Well, then she realized she had made me afraid, and she thought it was funny. So then she pulled one of those long tail feathers out of that dead pheasant, and she took it, and very slowly she made it come in that knot hole at me. Oh, I was so scared. I screamed. And of course, Mother came to see what was wrong with me. Diana, my sister, she got into trouble because she was making me afraid. And you know what, boys and girls? This sounds silly, but ever since then, I've been afraid of birds. I'm afraid of feathers and anything that has to do with birds. Well, now that I'm grown, I shouldn't be afraid anymore, right? But if for some reason a bird flies toward me, oh, suddenly I'm that little girl again, very scared. Do you know who made the thing called fear? Satan did. He wants us to be afraid of things. Boys and girls, from now on, If you want to do something that makes somebody else afraid, remember that the devil wants you to do that because he wants people to be afraid of things. And you don't want to make your brothers or sisters afraid, or your friends, because that's what the devil would want you to do. I'll see you next week, boys and girls. Bye-bye now.